Hey, happy Monday morning to you, everyone. Welcome back to Morning Musings. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute of Ardmore, Oklahoma. We are continuing our study of the 70 weeks of Daniel chapter 9. I'm in the process right now of examining the dispensational view of the 70 weeks, and specifically the idea that there is a gap between the 69th week and the 70th week. In the dispensational world, it is held that Jesus came. His baptism brings us right to the door of the 483rd year when Jesus offered the kingdom to the Jews. Pardon me. They rejected it. Consequently, the kingdom offer was postponed, and God established the church instead of the kingdom. The church was a mystery, totally unknown, supposedly, in the Old Testament. At the rapture, the church will be removed from the world, and God will begin once again the countdown of the 70 weeks. We have what's known as the 7-year tribulation period, actually 3.5 years, followed by the second coming and the millennial kingdom. The bottom line is here that the Jews rejected the kingdom offer. God postponed the prophetic countdown, inserted what is so far a 2,000-year gap into the prophetic countdown. Now, what we're going to do this morning is we're going to take a look at this proposed gap doctrine, whether or not it can be true. Before I get into that, I have to address something that's extremely critical. Folks, here we are at the close of the year, and you're doing your financial planning for next year. I want to let you know that Preterist Research Institute is in tremendous need of your help. Unfortunately, several of our longtime, very faithful, very generous contributors have had to retire. Health issues have set in. As a direct result of that, we have lost several $100s in regular monthly support. This is not a good thing. I'm asking you to please consider putting Preterist Research Institute into your financial plans for next year. We act conservatively. We do what is necessary. We are by no means extravagant. We are extremely responsible with the gifts that you give. I hear from you on everyday basis from viewers who tell me that these videos are changing your life. We are so grateful for that. We are humbled by that. We need your help. We cannot continue losing several $100s per month in monthly support and continue our ministry. That's just simply the way it is. Please give this very prayerful, very careful consideration. Anything at all that you can help us with would be greatly appreciated. And don't forget, for those who contribute to our ministry in $100 or more each month, every time one of my new books comes out, you get a free copy of that. It's just part and parcel of us expressing our appreciation. So we want to ask you, again, as you consider your contributions and your tax-free contributions, and yes, your gifts to PRI are tax deductible. So as you consider that, if you can help us with a one-time gift, many of you do at the end of the year, that's extremely helpful. If you can help us, please do. Most of all, right now, we need your monthly pledge of support. Now, you know that I very seldom, very, very seldom ask for money. I only do so when it's necessary. Well, guess what, folks? Right now, it's necessary. So please give that some thought. Okay, now, when the dispensationalists talk about their gap doctrine, there are some dispensationalists who say that the gap itself was a mystery, not foretold in the Old Testament. Well, then you have others, such as Thomas Ice, who says if there is not a gap of so far 2,000 years in the text of Daniel chapter 9, then dispensationalism falls to the ground. It is falsified. I want you to consider with me, and by the way, what I'm going to share with you is in this book, Seal It, Vision, and Prophecy, as well as my larger book, 70 Weeks Are Determined. All of this material and more, I'm not going to give it all to you, this material and more is in my book, Seal It, Vision, and Prophecy, and 70 Weeks Are Determined for the Resurrection. Point number one that I want you to consider. Now again, keep in mind that Thomas Ice says, if there's not a gap in the text of Daniel chapter 9, dispensationalism falls to the ground. Well, that means that in the text of Daniel chapter 9, we ought to have some indication of postponement, of failure. Instead, we have the prediction of the death of Jesus. Now look, folks, if the death of Jesus caught God off guard, if it postponed the countdown, then why doesn't Daniel 9 say so? Instead, it posits the death of Jesus as part of the 70-week countdown. Now, how do I know that it posits the death of Jesus as part of the 70 weeks itself? I know that because 70 weeks were determined to put away sin. How would Jesus put away sin? Well, let's see. Hebrews 9:26. Now, once at the end of the ages, Christ has appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. So, 70 weeks are determined to put away sin. Christ appeared to put away sin. That means the death of Christ belongs to the 70 weeks. Not after it, not postponed, part of it. I know this also because point number 2, 70 weeks were determined to make the atonement. That means the atonement belongs in the 70 weeks. Well, guess what? After the 62 weeks, that's literally, technically, after the 69th week, Messiah shall be cut off. But the Messiah being cut off is for the atonement. That means the death of Messiah after the 69th week, the death of Messiah to make the atonement belongs within the 70th week. It didn't postpone anything. You cannot look at those 6 constituent elements, inclusive of put away sin, make the atonement, and say, well, those belong within the 70 weeks. Without saying that the death of Jesus was the inherent, necessary, fundamental part of the prophetic countdown. It did not prevent anything. It fulfilled the countdown, not in its finality, but it was after the 69th week. So when our dispensational friends tell us, oh, well, there's a gap. No. There cannot be a gap if the death of Jesus was to put away sin, because putting away sin belongs in the 70th week. There cannot be that humongous 2,000-year gap if the death of Jesus was to make the atonement, part of the atonement process, and the 70 weeks were determined to make the atonement. You can't separate the death of Jesus from the 70-week countdown. It's all there is to it, period. End of story. And yes, I know some will be asking, well then, Don, what about your view that there is an interim of 40 years between the death of Jesus the first half of the 70th week and the second. Well, we're getting to that. Just hang on. It's what you call a teaser. It's what you call a hook. I'm getting to that, and I'll explain that. In the meantime, what we have here is the fact that within that 70-week countdown, not as an interruption to it, not as a postponement of it, but as a vital, integral, fundamental part of the 70-week countdown, the death of Jesus to put away sin, to make the atonement, belongs to the 70 weeks. Once again, not interrupting the countdown, a vital part of it. Listen, go to my website, donkpreston.com, bibleprophecy.com. Order a copy of my book, Seal Up Vision and Prophecy, or 70 Weeks Are Determined for the Resurrection. You'll be glad you did. Look, this material can't be found anywhere else. And I can tell you this, when I presented this material in formal public debate with Thomas Ice and Mark Hitchcock, they literally had not one word of response. It's that powerful. So order the book. You'll be glad you did. In the meantime, tomorrow, on the flip side, by the way, folks, this is going to be a short week. I'm only doing videos through Wednesday of this week due to Thanksgiving, okay? So, tomorrow, I'm going to be looking at if there's a gap in the text, then why didn't Jesus know about it? You don't want to miss that. I'll see you on the flip side.